Hello and welcome to StudyIQ. I am your friend Rahul Saigankar, and today we are going to have a discussion about the Dugong Conservation Reserve, which was recently announced by the state of Tamil Nadu. In this lecture, we are going to talk about how the newly declared conservation reserve will not just help in conservation of dugong, the animal which we commonly call as sea cow, not just the conservation of that animal, but in general, it will help in the protection of marine biodiversity. So we'll understand a bigger picture of this conservation reserve. That would be the agenda in this particular lecture. To get to know all these things, be with me on StudyIQ. And if you're preparing for UPSC Civil Services or State PSC, here is a list of State PSC programs that we run. We also have a TNPSC program. Just visit studyiq.com, or you can also download the app from Google Play Store to know more about and avail these services. Right, let's begin the discussion. We all know that a couple of months back, India's first conservation reserve was declared by Tamil Nadu. Marine biologists and conservationists were demanding it for a very long time, but eventually this has become a reality. So Tamil Nadu state government has declared 500 square kilometer of biodiversity rich waters in the Palk Bay to the south of India as India's first Dugong Conservation Reserve. Now you can see here, this is the area of the Marine Conservation Reserve, which has been declared by state of Tamil Nadu. Now, the reserve will span from the northern part of Palk Bay, that is Adirama-Pattinam, to Amapattinam. This was a demand by many biologists, many conservationists from long time, and eventually this has happened. Now, just to put into perspective, where will this come? So this is Sri Lanka, this is India, southern India, and Palk Bay is here, and to the northern side, you will see this to be the conservation reserve, Dugong Conservation Reserve. By the name itself, it is quite clear the main animal which would be protected is this dugong, right? Now, what is this dugong? Now, in the picture, it's shown here. In common parlance, in common terms, we call this dugong as sea cow. Alright, and please remember, it is a species which is found in warm waters, warm latitudes in Indian Ocean also and in the Western Pacific Ocean also. It is herbivorous. Please remember, in UPSC Civil Services, I wouldn't say a direct question on dugong, but dugong has been a part of many options as a statement, or sometimes the questions have also appeared. So do know about this animal. It is called a sea cow. It is a herbivorous mammal and mainly feeds on something called as seagrass. So it's a herbivorous mammal. It can grow up to 3 meters long and it is huge. It weighs about 300 kgs. And average lifespan of these dugongs is about 65 to 70 years. Now the question is, sir, fine, I understood about dugongs. But why do they need conservation? What is happening with these dugongs? What is the problem? See, dugongs have been listed as vulnerable in the IUCN's red list. IUCN is International Union for Conservation of Nature. They maintain a red list where they talk about the threatened species. If we talk about their red list, there are some categories. Extinct, the animals which we do not find, completely extinct. There's a list of that. Extinct in the wild, but they are protected in some protected areas. That category is also there. Apart from that, the threatened category has 3 variants. One is critically endangered, one is endangered, one is vulnerable. And every time in the examination, whenever an animal is added to these lists, it becomes important for you from the exam perspective. But here is a criteria that is given. To be listed as threatened, to be listed as critically endangered, endangered or vulnerable, one must fit this particular qualification, that the projected population should decline in the past 10 years to 30% to become vulnerable. The global range of these animals should be less than 20,000 square kilometers, or the number of individuals to become vulnerable should be less than 1,000, and dugong satisfies here. Because if we talk about the number of dugongs, the major area for dugongs is in Indian Ocean itself, where around 250 dugongs are present. Apart from this, in the Western Pacific, there are a few dugongs. So it fits, and that is why it has been declared as vulnerable. Apart from vulnerable, there is near threatened and least concerned. That means the number of these species or number of animals is huge. So there is no need to focus on these. But our prime focus or the center of our attraction would always be threatened categories, critically endangered, the first, endangered, and then vulnerable. So dugong comes under the vulnerable category. Now next question, sir, why dugong comes under the vulnerable category? What has happened? According to Wildlife Institute of India, dugongs were once huge or abundant in Indian oceans, Indian waters basically, but their population is now dwindling. 200 to 250 individuals are found in and around India, and out of this, about 150 are found in the region where the conservation reserve has been set up, right? Especially in the Indian Ocean waters. Now, there are some dugongs which are found near Andaman Nicobar. There are some dugongs which are found towards the coast of Gujarat also, but predominantly they are present in the Indian Ocean near the Palk Bay. Now, the question is, why is their number and why is their range continuously declining? What is the problem? And why this Dugong Conservation Reserve to the south of Tamil Nadu makes sense? See, dugongs are threatened because of two reasons. The first reason is natural reason. Now, natural adverse climatic actions which impact these animals, that might be one of the problems. But a bigger issue here is the low reproduction rate of dugongs. See, when we talk about dugongs, I told you the average lifespan is around 65 to 70 years. But it has very low production rate. Now, on an average, a female dugong, right, it becomes adult around age of 10, average age, although from 5 to 17 years, anytime the female can become adult. But once it becomes adult, it produces one calf every 3 to 7 years. Its gestation period is 1 year. That means the female dugong will be pregnant for 1 year. Then it delivers the calf. Then it delivers the baby. The baby is attached to the mother itself for at least 1 to 3 years till it becomes a little healthy. So its reproduction rate is very low. Added to this, the problem is compounded by anthropogenic factors. We humans are very dangerous, and we are actually creating problems for almost all the species. Mainly because of the climate change, because of anthropogenic use of fossil fuels, because of other factors, we are releasing so much of carbon dioxide in our environment that it is leading to global warming and climate change. Climate change is leading to change in the characteristics of the ocean water, the sea water. The salinity is reducing. The other factors are also changing, because of which it impacts the dugongs adversely. And a bigger problem of worrying is bottom trawling and dredging. Now, bottom trawling directly kills the dugongs because we send the nets to the bottom of the ocean. If this is the bottom of the ocean, we send the nets to the bottom and we try to scourge the fishes. We try to get a better yield of fishes. Now, in those nets, many dugongs get caught and they are killed. Apart from that, when you go for bottom trawling, you basically kill the benthic environment also, because you are mixing the entire soil at the bottom of the oceans, which kills the other organisms as well. Apart from that, dredging and bottom trawling, it mainly impacts the food of dugong, that is seagrass. It impacts these seagrasses adversely. And that is why whenever we start a conservation program, we should not only focus on that particular animal. So the question is, in this dugong conservation, is it enough to conserve only dugong? The answer would be no, because we need to conserve the dugong. Apart from dugong, we need to conserve the food of dugong, right? Now, see, when the project Tiger was planned and when it was implemented, it is quite obvious that once the tiger number increases, the tigers need something to eat. So along with Project Tiger, we also need a parallel project to ensure that these tigers have good prey, good food to eat. So we have to protect that also. The same logic applies here, that for dugong, whose scientific name is Dugong dugon, it is a herbivorous mammal. It feeds on seagrass. So we need to protect this seagrass. And a single dugong needs about 40 kg of seagrass every day to survive. And if this seagrass is destroyed, then eventually its food is destroyed, and then the dugongs will also be impacted in an adverse way. And the problems of bottom trawling and dredging, they're creating problems of seagrass beds itself. Now, first thing is that seagrass bed, it first of all helps the dugong in terms of food. It is the feed of dugongs. But these seagrass beds are also very rich in diversity. They provide the breeding grounds, the spawning grounds for many fishes. They themselves are home to many marine animals and marine organisms. So that is why if we protect these seagrass beds, we protect the marine biodiversity also. And right now, apart from dugong, this seagrass is also threatened. Why? You can see the example here. Seagrass is something like this, where the dugong feeds on this. There are many news snippets where we can see that the seagrass has washed up to Kovalam beach. And where do you find this Kovalam beach? This Kovalam beach is found in Kerala. From Tamil Nadu, seagrass reached to Kerala. because of the destruction. Many a times it happens because of wave action, which is a very natural phenomena, but these days extensively seagrass washes up to other areas where it should not be present typically. So we need to protect dugong, we need to protect seagrass also. And seagrass conservation has also been a part of this Dugong Conservation area, which was declared in the Palk Bay. In fact, there are many researchers who are involved from many years. Last year itself, a decade-long experiment was successful. 14 acres of degraded seagrass was restored in Gulf of Mannar by researchers. And the technique that they used here is the seagrass sprigs. They were attached to the biodegradable jute twines and they were connected to a quadrat or a frame of PVC. You can see here the picture, the frame of PVC is set up, and once it matures, then it is entirely transferred into the area. You can see the picture here. Once there was a single seagrass, then now there is a flourishing seagrass. This experiment has been quite successfully conducted by the researchers, and they've said that about 10 lakh rupees is needed for per acre planting of seagrass at the ocean. And considering the importance of biodiversity, marine biodiversity, this cost should not be a problem, right? So right now in the Dugong Conservation area, we are looking at Dugong Conservation and the food of Dugong, that is Seagrass Conservation. So Dugong is protected, seagrass is conserved, and because of seagrass conservation, we can see that there are many ecosystems, small ecosystems which are present in this seagrass itself. Those are also protected. So eventually marine biodiversity is being protected by the newly declared Dugong Conservation Area. A very important thing, and we hope that the implementation continues and the Dugongs numbers, they improve very soon. But let me end my discussion with a very interesting snippet, just a small information about Dugongs, because many times we get confused between Dugongs and Manatees because both of them, they come under the Sirenia family. In fact, all over the world, it is said that there is one species of dugong and there are 3 species of manatees which are found all over the world, right? So, see, dugongs are mainly found in salt water, but these manatees are found in fresh water as well as salt water. They look very similar. So, I want you to do one more thing. Just research a little bit about dugong and manatees and let me know about their status. Dugong is already vulnerable. Is manatee vulnerable? Dugong is found in Indian and the Pacific region. Where do we find manatees? And all the other differences, I want you to tell me in the comment section. With that note, let me end my discussion. Thank you for watching this. Jai Hind.